Peace be upon you, brothers and sisters. This is Saeed Mirza from willionreason.com, and in today's talk, I wanted to look at this claim made by the Muslims that Bakka was the old name of the current city of Mecca in Saudi Arabia. Now, why is this important? This is important because Muslims claim that the Kaaba, the cube structure that they have set up, and the worship that they perform over there and the way they revere it, which is idol worship, they claim that this is a practice instituted by Prophet Abraham and that this was the house established by Abraham. Now, whatever the form of the house was that was built by Abraham, I can guarantee you for a fact that he was not worshiping this cuboid structure, and we shall see that in the Qur'an it's very difficult for you to claim that a cuboid structure is what is meant by the house of God, because you could enter the house, and we know for a fact that at least for the common people it is impossible to enter the Kaaba, and it can't really even house that many people. There are other issues with this whole idea that the cuboid structure is something that was created that was built by prophets and messengers, and definitely this whole idea of worshiping, circling the cube, the stone idol. You will find it has a lot of similarities with the practices of Hinduism and Buddhism, and I'll also look into that. But before we start, I wanted to tell you that this talk is based on the article that I wrote on my website. I'll put a link in the drop-down box below, so if you don't want to hear my rambling, then you can just go read the article. And I also encourage you to read Chapter 11 of my book, Will You Not Reason, in which I cover this whole issue in depth. And come to your own conclusions. I'm not here to convince you one way or otherwise. I'm just presenting to you the research that I've done and the facts on the ground, so to speak. So, let's begin. Makkah or Bakka, what the Quran says about the first house of God. So we wanted to look at the Quranic evidence for the claim made by the Muslims that Bakka is the old name of Makkah. And while I consider these issues to be irrelevant due to the fact that the location of these ancient sites has been lost or forgotten, or these sites have been destroyed, a number of Quran alone followers consider the so-called Hajj in Makkah to be a rite ordained by God in the Quran. That is God. They believe that God commanded the believers to go to Makkah in Saudi Arabia and participate in these idol worshipping rituals under the guise of Hajj. And let me be clear, the Hajj, as practiced by the Muslims in its current form, is nothing more than idol worship. And I cover this issue in depth in Chapter 11 of my book, Will You Not Reason? But I will give you some key points from that chapter as to the similarities between the current day Hajj and similar practices in both Hinduism and Buddhism, which are pagan religions. I need you to understand this fact. These are pagan religions, and they have similarities with the Hajj ritual that is being performed. So please don't write in the comment box that we don't really worship the stone idol, the Kaaba, and this is just a way for the ummah to unite and all that sort of stuff, and insinuate that Prophet Abraham, whose whole narrative in the Quran is one of abhorrence to idols, he was the one who destroyed the idols in his community, that he would condone this practice. Now, the defining feature of the Hajj ritual as being performed today is the circling of the Kaaba idol counterclockwise 7 times. This is an undisputed fact. This is the defining feature. However, the Quran does not mention the circling of any object 7 times. You will not find this word, this idea of 7 times of circling anywhere in the Quran. I challenge you to find this 7. You won't find it. Now, I know that the word tawaf has been misinterpreted or mistranslated or misconstrued to mean the circling of a stone idol, but if you actually investigate the Quran and see where else this word is used in other places in the Quran. Again, this information is available in Chapter 11 of the book. I encourage you to go look at these verses where this word tawaf is used, and you will come to the realization that this word tawaf only means visitation, and going about. It cannot mean the ritualistic 7 times circling of any object. But this practice of 7 times circling is found in Hinduism, and it is called Sat Phere. Circumambulation, which is the circling of an object, is also a common practice in pagan religions such as Buddhism, and is termed as parikrama or pradakshina. And I will read to you the definitions as they are found on Wikipedia. And if you know anything about the Hindu culture, you know in their weddings they have this this thing, the Sat Phere, where the bride and groom take their vows, and they circle the sacred fire 7 times. Okay, so the Sat Phere is one of the most important features of the Hindu wedding, involving 7 rounds around a sacred fire lit for the purpose amidst the Vedic mantras. The bride and groom circumambulate a consecrated fire 7 times, reciting specific vows with each circuit. Vows made in the presence of the sacred fire are considered unbreakable, with Agni Deva held as both witnessing and blessing the couple's union. Every phera, every circle taken, holds a specific meaning, and according to Vedas is from origin of Hindu dharma. According to Vedas, it is Lord's ritual of acceptance of soul. Parikrama or pradakshina is clockwise circumambulation of sacred entities and the path along which this is performed as practiced in the Indic religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, and Jainism. In Buddhism, it refers only to the path along which this is performed. Typically, in Indic religions, the parikrama is done after completion of traditional worship, puja, and after paying homage to the deity. Parikrama must be done with dhyana, spiritual contemplation and meditation. Since I've seen this, since I have participated in it, I know that when the Muslims finish the Hajj ritual, then the last thing they do is they do a farewell tawaf, which is a circling of the Kaaba idol 7 times before they depart. See what it says here. It says the parikrama is done after completion of traditional worship and after paying homage to the deity. So, after they're done with their puja, their worship, the Hindus, or whatever these Indic religions are, Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, and Jainism, they perform homage to the deity. So this is the core of the issue. The Kaaba is actually is an idol. It's an idol. It's a deity. Was worshipped from long ago. Again, I encourage you to read the chapter in my book in which I go in much more detail that the Arabs were worshipping standing stones, which were called beetles, and these were used to represent a deity, and these were usually rectangular or cuboid blocks, and this has been discovered in Petra. Do your own research, okay? Don't just follow your ancestors blindly who didn't know what they were doing. Now, apart from revering this cuboid stone structure, the Kaaba in Makkah, the Muslims also compete in kissing a stone encased in one of its sides, which is called the Hajj al-Aswad. And again, this is another instance of pure idol worship, that you are giving some sort of special sacredness to this Hajj al-Aswad and trying to kiss it. This is pure idol worship. And the Qur'an contains a stark warning for those who revere stones, because this is a common motif across all pagan religions. All pagan religions take stones and consider them sacred. This is nothing new. We have here in the Qur'an in complete revelation, this is chapter 66, verse 6. O you who heed warning, protect yourselves and your families from a fire whose fuel is men and stones, over which are angels stern and severe. They do not oppose God in what he has commanded them, but do what they are commanded. So, those who are heeding warning, they are being told to protect themselves and their families, whose fuel is men and stones. Okay, so this worship of stones, understand that this is a grave sin. Now, coming back to the claim made by Muslims that the first house established by Prophet Abraham in Bakka is the same site in Makkah, we have a big problem, as the Quran makes it clear that the first house of God was established by Abraham in Bakka. So Muslims claim that the first house that was established by Prophet Abraham, which is referred to in the Quran, and it's called Bakka, this is the same site. This is the old name of the site of the city called Makkah. But there's a big problem, because the Quran states specifically that was the first house of God that was established in Bakka, which implies that there were other houses established after it. And that's just as using your reason. There is no place in the Quran where it says that Bakka was the old name of the current idol center Makkah, as Muslims keep on insisting. This is coming from the Hadith literature. And you have to understand, and Brother Gans raises this point quite a bit as well, that when Muslims read the Quran, they're reading it through the Hadith literature. They already have all these lies and fabrications and falsehoods in their minds, and so when this is already in them, so when they read the Quran, this prevents them from really understanding. So when in the Quran it says, when the Muslims have been told over and over again that Makkah is actually Bakka, this is the name of the site, the old site Bakka, the name has been changed, kind of like how Bombay was changed to Mumbai. That this is what happened. So when they read the first house was established in Bakka, they insert Makkah in there, and this is how it works. But it clearly states it's Bakka. And just on a side note, this is one of the, if you want to talk about miracles, this is one of the miracles of the Quran. This is the beauty, because God has said that the book is preserved, no falsehood can enter it. So Muslims would have loved to have put this whole idolatrous ritual, all these practices that they're doing, this seven circling, this throwing of stones at the devil, just the whole package. They would have loved to put this in the Quran, but they were unable to do so because the book is preserved. This is the thing. They had it for so many years, they were unable to change even a letter. Makkah and Bakka. Think about it. They couldn't even change a letter. And so they had to come up with this whole nonsense, hadith literature, Bukhari and Muslim and all this garbage falsehood, so that they could, create the details that are required to sustain the religion. I just think that's amazing. Now, Brother Gans also makes an interesting observation regarding the claim of the Muslims that Abraham was the one who started their Hajj practices. Because what they are insinuating, if you actually think about what they're saying that Abraham, who was a staunch monotheist, and he is the one who turned away from the idols, and he destroyed the idols of his own community. This is in the Quran, okay? This man, he led people into worshiping a stone structure. Because if you look at the Quranic narrative of Abraham, it is clear that he abhorred the worship of statues and all things carved. And he is the one who destroyed the idols of his own community, for which he was thrown into the fire, and then God rescued him. Now, does this seem like a man who would then leave this idol worshipping community and then build a stone idol in the middle of the desert and start prostrating to it or encircling it 7 times? Does this sound like a man who would do that? The Quran is quite clear that he set up the first house of worship at Bakka, but to attribute to him the idolatrous practices being done in Makkah today is crossing the line. This is the slander that Muslims do, because whatever this first house of worship at Bakka was, it was never a place of idol worshipping or performing these rituals. It was a means to call men towards God so that they could witness the benefits, and they were supposed to feed the poor. And this was a gathering. This was not this activity that you and I both know is going on there. You just have to think about this with a sincere heart. Okay, so this is from the Qur'anic Complete Revelation, chapter 3, verses 96 and 97. The first house set up for mankind was that at Bakka, blessed and a guidance for all mankind. In it are clear proofs of the station of Abraham, and whoso enters it is safe. And God's claim upon mankind is a pilgrimage to the house, for whoso is able to find a path to it, and whoso denies God is free from need of all mankind. Now, if you look into the Arabic, it says, in it are clear proofs of the station of Abraham, Maqam Ibrahim. We'll talk about that word Maqam because it's very important, and it's very intrinsic to the claim of the Muslims, why they need to use this word to mean footprints. But anyway, this word means station or position. So in it are clear proofs of the station of Abraham, and whoso entered it was saved. And if you look in the Arabic, it's past tense, but the Gerrans here translates the present tense, and whoso enters it is saved, but in Arabic it's the past tense. So, and whoso entered it was saved. Now, while Muslims claim that this first house established by Abraham in Bakka is the cube stone idol, the Kaaba in Mecca. Now, obviously, they have the stories. Oh, it was destroyed and it was rebuilt. Blah blah blah. Okay, fine. But the claim is still on face value is still the same. That this is the place where this Kaaba, was the Makkah, this city. This is the city that was Bakka before, and Abraham established something similar to a Kaaba or the same cuboid structure. I'd love to see the designs of this place, but this is the claim of the Muslims. But there are a number of glaring problems with this assumption. This is from the Qur'an, okay? And if you believe that the Qur'an is from God, it's preserved, then you need to pay heed to this stuff, because what the Qur'an is describing as this first house of God, it cannot be the cuboid stone structure. Why? Because no one can enter the Kaaba. It says in the Quran, it says, in it are clear proofs of the station of Abraham, and whoso entered it was safe. Now, can you enter the Kaaba? Unless you're one of the few elect Saudis, if you're MBBS, sure, yeah, you can enter it. But for the common Pakistani going there, no. You only the best thing you could do is probably clean it. You know, this is what the Pakistanis are doing over there. But you are not allowed entry into the Kaaba. So, and by the way, it can't even house the millions of people. I mean, it's a small place. So whatever this worship of God, this house was built, because if you think about it, a house is a place where people come together, they meet, they go in there, right? They break bread. This is a house, right? So this house that was established, people could go into it, and it was a safety. It was a source of safety, like the masjid, like the temples. It was a place of safety, so on that point, it fails to meet the criteria, because it says that whoso entered it was safe. Yet you cannot enter the Kaaba. Now, furthermore, the Muslims claim that a set of footprints which they allege belong to Abraham, the Maqam Ibrahim, are what the Quran means by the station of Abraham. So when I talked about, it says in it are clear proofs of the station of Abraham. In Arabic, it says Maqam Ibrahim. Maqam means station or position, and Ibrahim, this is a station. This is in the house. By the way, this house is no more, right? Because it's in the past tense. It was in Bakka. In it were clear proofs of the station of Abraham, Maqam Ibrahim. Muslims claim that this word, Maqam Ibrahim, these two words, they mean a set of footprints, and these set of footprints, by the way, are found in the Masjid al-Haram, the sort of the mosque, the holy mosque that encompasses this Kaaba. It's near it. You can see videos and pictures of this online, and it's literally like two footprints. It's not even footprints, it's just two like holes encased in concrete, and you're expected to believe that these were somehow magically preserved. Abraham was standing on concrete or something, setting concrete, and these were preserved. I mean, I'm just trying to point out to the ridiculousness of this thing. So Muslims claim that this is the Maqam Ibrahim. However, the word Maqam as used in the Quran can only mean standing, rank, or station. This is a fact. You can look this word up in the Quran, where else it's used. On reader.quranic.com, there is a functionality. If you know a little bit of Arabic, you can go in, you can click on a word, and it'll show you all the instances of this word in the Quran. I encourage you to investigate how the Quran is using this word. It means position, it means status, it means rank, station. It's never meant as physical footprints. That's not how the Quran uses it. But coming back to the problem, it says here that in it. So even if you assume this, if you believe this ridiculous claim that these two sets, the set of footprints in concrete or stone or whatever, they belong to Abraham, and this is what the God is saying, Maqam Ibrahim. You have the problem again that is saying in it. So this should be inside the Kaaba, not outside of it. We're just going off of what the Quran is saying, okay? It doesn't make any difference what translation you use. It doesn't make sense. Okay, so what's interesting is, as I researched this idea of footprints, I found out that the presence of footprints near a sacred site is not unique to the Kaaba or to the Muslims. Buddhist shrines feature Buddha's footprints as a common motif. You can look this up as well. So this is a similarity that the Kaaba shares again with a pagan site, in the sense that pagan sites, Buddhist shrines, have this motif of Buddha's footprints. Like they have footprints that they claim are from Buddha. Are you seeing the connection here? Again, I encourage you to read chapter 11 of the Quran, of my book, Will You Not Reason, and investigate this issue to your own satisfaction. Now, perhaps unsurprisingly, the Quran uses the word Makkah only once in connection with the Masjid al-Haram. If you think about this site is so sacred, so central to the religion of Islam, yet the Quran uses this word Makkah just once. Makkah is only used once in the Quran. This is a verifiable fact. And even there where it's used, you can take it to mean a common word, meaning destruction. It fits the context. And this is how Brother Gerrans translates it. Regardless, even if you take it to mean the name of a city, Makkah, the Quranic narrative is not about that the Makkah is housing the Kaaba, is that they were in. I'll just read to you the verse, and this is from the Quran interpreted by John J. Arbery. I wanted to use his translation because he's translating the word Makkah as a proper noun. This is chapter 48, 24. Verses 24 and 25. It is he who restrained their hands from you and your hands from them in the hollow of Mecca. After that he made you victors over them. God sees the things you do. They are the ones who disbelieved and barred you from the holy mosque and the offering, detained so as not to reach its place of sacrifice. If it had not been for certain men believers and certain women believers whom you knew not, lest you should trample them, and there befall you guilt unwittingly on their account, that God may admit into his mercy whom he will. Had they been separated clearly, then we would have chastised the unbelievers among them with a painful chastisement. So even if you take this understanding that this Makkah is a city and is being talked about here, it said it is he who restrained their hands from you and your hands from them in the hollow of Mecca. They are the ones who disbelieved and barred you from the holy mosque. So it's not saying that the holy mosque is here. It's saying that there was a battle at that point in that place. If you take this word Makkah to mean a city, I understand it to mean destruction. It fits better the context, and I'll read to you what Brother Gerrans translates this as. Regardless, it's not saying here that the holy mosque, the Masjid al-Haram, is in Makkah. Again, this is the insinuation that Muslims bring up because they are so brainwashed by the Hadith literature that they give it preference over what the Quran says. And my viewpoint again is that this whole issue is irrelevant. What is happening with any man, well, whoever God guides, he can see that what is happening there is pure idol worship. So the question is that if this is happening over there, would you want to go there? That's like saying, okay, people are drinking in this club, but I'm gonna go in there and not drink. Why would you want to go in the club? Okay, so this is chapter 48, verse 24 and 25 from the Qur'anic Complete Revelation by Brother Gerrans. And he it is that restrained their hands from you and your hands from them in a belly of destruction. But bibatni makkata. Bibatni means in the stomach, or you could say in the hollow. Makkata, which means destruction. That's the translation of it if you take it as a common word. After he made you victorious over them, and God is of what you do seeing. Those are they who disbelieved and turned you away from the inviolable place of worship, and the offering was prevented from reaching its place of sacrifice. And were it not for believing men and the believing women whom you knew not, whom you might have trampled, then had dishonor befallen you on their account without knowledge, that God might make enter into his mercy whom he wills. Had they been separate, he would have punished those who ignore warning among them with a painful punishment. So using this one instance of the word Makkah, Muslims have shoehorned an entire idolatrous practice with the idol worshipping center into the Quran. And my position is that whether we take Makkah to be the name of a city or translate as destruction, what is happening on the ground in Makkah is pure idol worship. So again, I pose the question to you as believers: would you want to go near such a place? Finally, what is clear from the Quran is that Bakka was the first site established by Abraham for the purposes of inviting men to God. The prophets and messengers were not leading idol worshipping rituals. Wherever the final messenger of God was, that is, wherever Prophet Muhammad was, because again, I do not accept this whole narrative that he was in Makkah and he went to Medina, and then there were trials and tribulations he experienced, and then he had a victory over the unbelievers in Makkah again. And the reason I don't believe this narrative is I point you towards Brother Gerrans' work. He has done an excellent job in that he has tried to show that what the prophets and messengers were doing were not that they were trying to establish a religion or build an empire or what they were doing was they were interested in doing was warning men of the coming day of judgment. And this has always been the modus operandi of all prophets and messengers, including Prophet Muhammad. And God's mechanism, the way he holds people accountable, is that he sends messengers and prophets to a community. When they reject the messenger or the prophet, then God's punishment becomes binding. They are destroyed utterly. They are annihilated. This has always been the model. This has always worked in the past. And if you want more information, I suggest you look at Brother Gerrans' work, The God Protocol, in which he, painstakingly details this process. So if Muhammad, obviously Muhammad was sent to his people, but he was also a messenger to all of mankind. And because Muhammad was sent to his people, they rejected him, as is in the Quran. This is what happened. And then they were destroyed. There was no Muhammad going back and conquering them. There was nothing like that. They were destroyed by God. And then his mission was to be a messenger to all of mankind. Which again, you people are so interested in the geopolitics and the alien invasions and the next disease or whatever, or trying to especially in the Islamic sphere, they're trying to bring this golden age of the religion of Islam back and show the world that Islam is the right religion, etc., etc. They're failing to understand that the messenger of God, the last messenger of God, who was sent to all of mankind, has already gone. He's dead. And always, when messengers come, a community is destroyed. And since Muhammad was the last messenger to all of mankind, no other messengers are going to come after him, no prophets are going to come after him, then it is understood that we are living in the last days and that judgment is imminent. The day of judgment is imminent. This is really the core of what we're trying to say, that it's time to pay heed to the word of God and become righteous people and fear God and believe and expect the last day of judgment. This is what it's about. It's not about, trying to, resurrect a dead religion or resurrect some practices or trying to relocate these ancient sites. That time is past. So again, wherever the final messenger of Muhammad was, it is clear that he would have never condoned or led idolatrous rituals and revered a cube stone idol. And I leave you with a quote from the Quran. This is from the Quran Complete Revelation, chapter 16, verse 36. And we raised up in every community a messenger, serve God and avoid idols. And among them was he whom God guided, and among them was he upon whom his guidance was binding. So travel in the earth and see how was the final outcome of the deniers. And that concludes my presentation on Makkah or Bakka, what the Quran says about the first house of God. God willing, until next time, peace and blessings be upon you.